Whatever happened to the stormtroopers that Nancy Pelosi and other Democrats said were fanning out across Portland and causing the violence? They're causing the violence. But the violence was there for 2 months before they arrived. The violence was there for many weeks before they even involved themselves in it. But somehow they were the cause of violence that predated them by a long time, which I have to tell you, I think is a pretty stunning trick that federal law enforcement was able to pull. You have Chad Wolf, acting DHS chief, who's saying, no, that's not true. They're not Gestapo or stormtroopers, Democrats. Play 6.
Let me briefly address several inaccurate statements offered by some as events have played out in Portland. Our law enforcement officers are not an occupying force, and they are not serving as a general domestic security agency. They have been deployed for an extended period of time to one city, and that's Portland, and it's to protect federal properties. Our law enforcement officers are not stormtroopers, the Gestapo, or thugs. They are civil law enforcement officers who wear clearly marked uniforms, who are properly trained, who follow established law enforcement procedures and practices, and operate within their authorities. It's been suggested that our law enforcement officers should not be in Portland if not invited by state or local officials. And while our preference is always to partner with local and state law enforcement, enforcing federal law is not by invitation. Unlike local law enforcement, we cannot be directed to ignore criminal activity and actions, and we will never shy away from our statutory duties.
That's the truth of the situation, but you haven't heard a lot of that from the media, have you? You're not seeing such a focus on this. So when the federal law enforcement agents show up, what do CNN and the other frauds do? Oh, that's right. They start claiming the problem is the presence of the federal law enforcement officers, even though the riots have been happening for over a month before they even got there. Mayor Ted Wheeler, Antifa's errand boy, mayor of Portland, he says the rioters are setting fire at a Portland police building. When they were doing that, they were trying to set fire to in East Portland, kind of a suburb just outside the city, I believe. Quote, "You are attempting to commit murder," he said on a broadcast. That's right. Mayor Wheeler is saying, hey, guys, rioters, you're actually trying to kill people because they're trying to light a police station on fire that had people inside of it. Arson, attempted murder. How does CNN report on this? How do they refer to the people who are doing this stuff? Not even as protesters, but as demonstrators. You gotta just look at it in amazement, folks. Body armor, rubber bullets, pepper spray, images of unrest and violence against demonstrators are prompting questions about what police use to quell protests in cities. Yeah, that's right. The problem is the cops, you see. Democrats are nuts. Nuts. Completely insane. But they're never going to learn their lesson on this thing because they won't have to. Because there are enough white lib activist loons out there who really think that if we defunded cops or we got rid of police or we undermined police, things will get better for anyone. It's not true. It's not reality. But this is their position. This is their point of view on it. And it's become mainstream among Democrats. It has become mainstream indeed. But I saw this too. Feds discovered the most sophisticated tunnel in U.S. history along the U.S.-Mexico border. You know who I'm sure business has been really good for during all this? The cartels. People are in despair. There's such a clear sense that that a lot of people feel like they have no hope, no future. They lost their jobs. They've lost their businesses. And now we see a 1,300-foot underground passageway, according to the New York Post here, stretching from Arizona to Mexico, was just discovered. Federal agents calling it the most sophisticated such tunnel under the border in U.S. history. It ran from San Luis, Arizona to San Luis Rio, Colorado in Mexico. Had a ventilation system, water lines, electrical wiring, a rail system, and extensive reinforcement. Say it is the most sophisticated tunnel they have ever seen. My friends, we don't really have great numbers on it yet, but when you see the number of drug overdoses that have happened during this period of time and the lockdowns that are occurring and everything, all of the costs that we have suffered from. Producer Mark says it sounds like something out of Breaking Bad. But we're not even paying attention to these other challenges that are going on right now. And, the border gets so little focus because we're in the midst of a political fight, and COVID panic sells for the media. They get a lot of clicks out of it. They blame it on Trump. And the cop stuff, that they won't, there's no reasoning with the unreasonable. I mean, I can sit here and go on at length about how people who talk about defunding the cops don't actually know what those in high crime neighborhoods want, because they don't want defunding of cops. It doesn't matter. They think they're on some kind of a holy mission. I mean, I really do think that, the modern Democrat Party has become a haven for people who have really deep-seated emotional and psychological problems, but they can latch on to these beliefs that Democrats, that they're open about, that this is part of, and they don't feel like they're alone anymore, and they feel like they're on the good guy side. So defund cops. No well-adjusted, intelligent person believes that that's a smart thing to say out loud, but millions and millions of Democrats do. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you, Mayor? Well, I think it tells you a lot. Hey, Team Buck, thank you so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, please click that little thumbs up button so then it will log as liked. And also, if you want to see more great content from The First, please click subscribe.